Hey there, Heather. Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to yet another Cutter Degrassi retrospective. And in my weekly series, we're almost done. Today will be seasons 11 and 12. I didn't wear the 12 on purpose. It's because, with Tom Brady and the Super Bowl and all that, today I have to wear the number 12. It's a birthright, in a sense. So, anyway, today is going to be seasons 11 and 12 in the retrospective because a long time ago, I started this with the kids at Degrassi Street, realizing I've never done a Kids at Degrassi episode of any Degrassi video. So I did. I talked about that, and then I talked about Degrassi Junior High in a video, and then Degrassi High, and then went 2 seasons in the Degrassi era for one day. Well, 18 with next class. So there will be 3 more weeks of this. Next week will be seasons 13 and 14, which are at the end of the Degrassi era, and then comes the next class era, which is only 20 episodes. Like I have to worry about. Okay, so season 11 started July 18, 2011, and concluded on May 18, 2012. So anyway, it's a semi-floating timeline. It dealt season 11 dealt with gang violence, parenthood, transphobia, homosexuality, drug use, dysfunctional families, mental disorders, adoption, organ transplants, crime, bulimia, alcoholism, sex, drug abuse, and murder. So 45 seasons were ordered for the telenovela era. For the first 7 weeks, there would be new episodes 4 days a week. The first 29 episodes was Degrassi Now and Never, and then the last 15 were Degrassi New Beginnings. So anyway, the first episode of season 11 was Boom Boom Pow. It was the episode in which Drew still has feelings for Bianca, even though that nobody wants him to be with Bianca. So they have things at a concert. This guy named, I thought it was Anson, but no, Anson is the guy who wants to take advantage of Bianca, and Drew tries to stop him and fight Anson, but Anson overpowers Drew, and then Bianca picks up a rock and smashes Anson's head and all that. Bianca can't risk much trouble because she realizes that if she is found out about her being the culprit, even though that, it's a freaking gang member, she could be in trouble with the law. So Drew decides to take the rap for her and all that. Love Game is when Claire's upset that Eli's taking the breakup too calmly. Was that when she does her famous speech about flicking a switch and all that? But anyway, she finds a new guy, Jake, that she really likes and all that. And Jenna's trying to become a mother, but Casey's not contributing his fair share. Anyway, what's my age again is when Anya's 18th birthday is coming up, which means she can actually date Dr. Chris. But she gets taken advantage of. Her mother has problems, and Anya can't be with Dr. Chris. So she's like, she can't find anybody. Drew worries about his relationship with Bianca when Vince is about to come after him. Casey grows tired of his parental responsibilities and finds a way out with Marisol and basically tells Jenna, "You told me to play basketball." Basically, he was just trying to get out of it. Thinking parenting is not that easy. And Connor starts to exhibit bad things about girls. Idiotech is when, Drew realizes all his problems are connected to Bianca and he should cut the cord. And Connor continues to steal women's underwear. I know that they were doing some kind of clothing app for a contest and all that, but Connor went about it the wrong way, stealing from the girls' locker room. And, he starts exhibiting weird symptoms. Simpson does his best to calm Connor down in the situation. Connor goes to a different school to learn about his urges and all that. Crimea River is when Drew and Dave and Adam want to be on part of the school's radio system, but Dave wants to ruin Adam by calling his doing his transphobia and all that. Unfortunately for Dave, he gets backlash and all that. And the censorship and persecution drive him further into intolerance. He just couldn't do it and all that. Anyway, Claire and Fiona also have problems. Dirt off your shoulder is when Eli tries to write the school play, but he has writer's block and writes and gets help from Imogen, who encourages him to quit his anti-anxiety medication. And that's when Eli streaks in the hallways. Riley. Riley is upset that his mom's talking to him, but wants to find out her intent. Basically, Riley's family is basically shunning him and all that. Yep, Casey and Marisol are together and all that. Paper Planes is when Anya has to tell her parents she can't get into college and has to choose between Holiday and Owen. She has medication and all that. And Anya ruins her college interview. And then I believe this was the episode Paper Planes when Anya finally decides to join the military, saying that she's perfect at that. Unfortunately, it does have the stereotype that Anya is better at following orders and all that. Anyway, yeah. Oh, Connor. Paper Planes was when Connor still had his underwear fetish and all that. Should have said no is when Claire's hormones are raging with Jake and all that. And Drew comes back to Degrassi after suffering from his concussion or all that in football. He has PTSD, which he was trying to get used to things. And then he has massive terror and he decides to leave Degrassi again. Dave tries to convince himself to go after Allie, but Sadie is not too happy with it. You don't know is when Holly J's health is getting worse, and then she learns that she needs a kidney donor and all that. She tries to get it within her family, and then in the process, she finds out that she is adopted and all that, and tries to track down her birth mother to get the kidney and all that. Adam is attracted to Katie and all that, and Imogen wants to make Eli her boyfriend. Is it? Does Holly J? We have more about Holly J in the kidney, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, I think this was. I think you don't know was the second part was when Holly J learns that her birth mother will give her the kidney for $2,000, and Holly J's like, or was it 20,000? Well, it's a high number anyway. And Holly J's like, you can't do that. The money's not the problem. It's just the fact that you can't ask for money for a organ. That's wrong. But the mother says that she needs it because with two kids and her losing her job and she needs almost a year to recover. That's what normal people do. 9 to 12 months of recuperation. She's strapped for cash. How's she going to provide for her family? It makes sense. And Holly J. Blaster saying that, you gave me up because of money troubles. What makes you think that I'm going to listen to you? And then Fiona, after realizing what Holly J is going through, decides to buy the mother's prom dress for the money and gives it to Holly J. And, Holly J gets the kidney. Jenna wants to come back to Degrassi, but has no money for childcare and lose herself. And unfortunately, they find out that Tyson has an accident falling off the change table while Jenna was looking for her guitar. They get a visit from Child Protective Services, and they both realize that they can't be parents. Casey wasn't set to be a good father, and Jenna just wants to go back to Degrassi. So they make the awkward decision to give up the baby because they just can't be parents. Mr. Brightside is when Drew has MMA stuff, but then there was a school expose and all that. And Drew tries to cope with his fear about everything. Because obviously, he still has the guilt over the Bianca thing. Allie tries to make Dave the perfect boyfriend. And they introduced Dave to her. She introduced Dave to her parents as her boyfriend, and they're okay with it. Extraordinary medicine is when Eli is off his medication and unstable. And all that. Imogen basically gives Eli trouble. Casey and Jenna find a couple who want to adopt Tyson. Anya decides to join the Air Force. And extraordinary medicine. Drop It Like a Hot is when Allie tries to break the news of her summer program with Dave, and then actually gets into an underground poker group and becomes addicted. And gambles with her relationship with Dave and her future. Wesley tries to keep Hannah from breaking up with him. And Bianca is threatened by Vince into peddling drugs at Degrassi, because it's revealed that Vince forces Bianca to do whatever he wants in exchange for not telling on Drew for hurting Anson. Don't Panic is when Katie and Marisol are running for student council president, and unfortunately Marisol uses Katie's bulimia to win the election and all that, because I think Marisol wins. Anyway, Eli is diagnosed with bipolar disorder and tries to apologize to everybody, and actually wants Jake and Claire to confess their love for each other. And Sav and Miss O actually flirt with each other, which is definitely wrong. Take a Bow is when Holly J and Anya get dates to prom. Fiona asks Charlie and all that. Of course, Fiona has to face her demons when loneliness and guilt over her relapse, which pushes her loved ones away. Anya is accepted into the army and all that. Katie wants to have prom night with Drew and all that. And then Dead and Gone is when Drew finds out that Bianca and Finn's encroaching on his space. Claire and Jake are left reeling when they realize that they find out that Claire's mother and Jake's father are getting married, which means that Claire and Jake legally can't be boyfriend and girlfriend because they're now step siblings. Sav tries to get to be with Miss O, and Miss O kind of leaves, so that's good news for Sav and all that. Anyway, so of course Vince comes in trying to get rid of Drew and Bianca and all that. Drew decides to finally talk to Bianca about the problems, but unfortunately, it just gives Vince more ammo to go after Drew and all that. Bianca says it's never over with Vince. So Finn starts shooting. He shoots Adam. I think he tries to shoot Drew, but he fails, and then he gets apprehended and all that. And Bianca finds the gun and wants to go to Vince's hideout and kill Vince. But Drew tells her not to. Adam's in the hospital. He's going to be okay. And then Drew admits that this is all his fault. But Audra blames Bianca, and Drew realizes that Bianca can't be at fault and says that Bianca will need all the help she needs because now the police will go after her. You've got to do something about this. So he stands up to Audra, which is unusual. Nowhere to Run is when the Degrassi students come back from summer break a week before the new school year. Jake and Claire are still not talking. And of course, their parents' wedding happens. So Jake invites Katie, Drew, Marisol, and Allie to his family's remote cabin in the woods and all that. And of course, this was kind of a Halloween thing. And then underneath it all is when Fiona is finally ready for a fresh start and has to navigate Degrassi without Holly J, because Holly J goes to New York. But she has a reputation with the younger students. And Fiona has guilt over Imogen taking the blame for the senior prank, which is kind of wrong and all that. Some say it's just tinfoil, but yeah, it could explode bigger. Claire and Jake have a secret relationship and all that. Meanwhile, Maya, Tori, Sig, and Tristan move into the school. So this was the season 11 preview for these four people. So we would find out how toxic those four are to each other and to themselves. Can't Tell Me Nothing is when Katie tries to try out for the national soccer team and tries to find a quick fix that will injure her knee and all that. Of course, Katie takes her mother's medication that she needs to do with her multiple sclerosis. No, was it multiple sclerosis or cystic fibrosis? Cystic fibrosis. My fault. No, sorry, it was. I don't know what I'm thinking, but yeah, Katie goes to rehab. Anyway, Jenna is upset with her breakup with Casey and all that. And Tristan is upset that Sig wants to take Tori away from him. Not ready to be nice is that Claire can't be around Jake anymore and decides to find new arrangements because she can't live with Jake, especially with her parents being married. So Claire's mom and Claire's dad aren't sure where Claire is. Claire then goes to a bookstore and talks about her problems to this woman named Summer at the bookstore, and then she tells Claire that she can bunk with her. And unfortunately, it's a weed cult. Claire is unsure what she should do because of it, but she learns that she tries to do it. But however, Jake and Claire's mom realize that Claire's in over her head and try to help her out. Connor makes the football team, but thanks to Mo, well, he's not happy with Mo. But Connor and Mo plan something and they fake the other team out with the whole Claire flip your switch story speech. Need You Now is when Eli has a relationship with Imogen growing and all that. And, you know, Eli's obsessed with trying to find Imogen's truth. Casey and Jenna are invited to Tyson's christening when they call him Doug. Casey then decides to be in his son's life because he realizes all that, but, he's upset about everything. Smash Into You is when Dave tries to get Allie back after ruining everything. The modern UN was troublesome and all that. So anyway, Hollaback Girl is when Bianca is finally back to being the girl she is thanks to Mrs. Torres and looks into colleges. And she actually befriends Katie. But Katie's using Bianca for her drug connections. And of course, Katie overdoses and is taken out of school to attend rehab. So anyway, Dave is obsessed with what happened with Jacinda. It was a full of an accident and all that. Maricel is embarrassed with being with Mo and all that. And then in the cold, cold night is when Fiona and Imogen tried to overthrow Marisol as student council president once Katie's in rehab by throwing an end to semester holiday carnival. Unfortunately, though, the problem is that Fiona finds out her mother's in legal troubles, their assets have been frozen, and Fiona had basically told everyone she would fund the expensive carnival and all that. Claire and Maya try to confront their own feelings with things. And of course, Fiona is with Imogen, tries to stay with Imogen. So that's season 11. And then comes season 12. 40 episodes of telenovela thing in spring semester. And it deals with homophobia, theft, religion, sexual harassment, dysfunctional families, peer pressure, pregnancy scares, stress, self-image, self-injury, suicide, drug use, burglary, parenthood, depression, grief, and relationships. So yeah, they go with the telenovela run. The first episode of season 12 is Come As You Are. They come back from winter break and get exciting news from the school. Simpson is finally relaxing the restrictions and all that. They don't really have to wear uniforms. They do have to wear color coded shirts and all that, but it doesn't have to be uniform like. It can be their own stuff. And second of all, there's going to be some new students because the Toronto Ice Hounds, a minor hockey team, like kind of a junior hockey team, if you will, recruited some new people. And that includes Dallas from Guelph. Um, oh my gosh, not Becky. Luke Baker from Florida and Cam from Campus Casing in northwestern Ontario. Now, of course, contrary to popular belief, the Degrassi is not, the Icehounds are not a Degrassi team. They're a minor hockey team because in Canada, there's minor leagues of 16 to 18-year-olds that compete and try to win the scouts approval in the NHL or even overseas. So logically, this is a step to the NHL and all that. So it's not a school team. Well, I know that firsthand because I live in Kitchener, and that's a major junior hockey team, the Kitchener Rangers, where people like Derek Roy, Gabe Landeskog, Hunter Berskowitz, Jackson Parsons, and John Gibson, among others, are former Kitchener Rangers. Anyway, Katie comes back from rehab, but Drew doesn't want to be around Katie and all that. And then he suffers a massive hangover because Drew learns that Katie had raped him. And of course, Drew can't tell anyone because of the fact that it's not there. Anyway, Claire's happy to see Eli again. Walking on broken glass is when Katie is upset when Drew breaks up with her and wants revenge on Drew and Bianca. Because, Drew wants to be with Bianca. I think there's something going and all that. He tries to win back Bianca. Eli and Becky work on the school play. They want to cast Romeo and Juliet and all that. So Eli decides to make it a thing with two dudes, and Becky, being of the religious background, is not too happy about it. They were setting Becky up to be kind of like Darcy. Tristan actually has a crush on Cam and all that. Anyway, Got Your Money is when Sid tries to conceal his poverty, while Tori makes a big deal of their anniversary and all that. Dave actually has trouble adjusting to the fact that he's playing a gay character and all that. And Fiona comes back to Degrassi, fortunately, and fails to see Imogen, but doesn't know if the feeling is mutual. Saying it so is when Allie can actually finish school a year early and get an exclusive place at MIT. And she thinks she's pregnant, but thankfully she's not. Jake decides to forego college and work for his father, and decides to construct a rooftop garden at Degrassi. And Cam tries to fit in with the hockey team, but fails and lashes out at Maya. The hockey team is not helping him by pushing pressure on him because Cam is what they call a hotshot prospect. Closer to free is when Jenna is opposed to a friendship with Becky until she meets Luke. And then Jenna decides to try to get Luke to like her by baptizing herself. Unfortunately, though, she realizes that everything she did was a big mistake. And then Drew's schoolwork suffers because he suffered a massive concussion and now he wants to work at the mall and all that. Waterfalls is when Claire tries to go towards Asher's approval, pitches a story about the play, but Asher kisses her. And then she actually tries to move past it, but then he inappropriately touches her, setting off something. Um, Casey and Bianca have some kind of plan to do with Casey's mother smothering him and all that. And unfortunately, Casey finds out there's massive news because, his father is finally getting out of prison and, he's worried about Casey's Casey's worried about his dad trying to go after them. Cam wants to be with his friends more than hockey, and everyone hates that. And Rusty Cage. And then he decides to try to get out of hockey by using his skate blades to harm himself, if you will. Casey wants to give his father a second chance, but can't. And so that him and his mother basically run to the West Coast to get away from him. Never ever is when Imogen designs an elaborate set for the play and has to ask her mother for money. And all that. Unfortunately, though, her father is diagnosed with dementia and she tries to deal with everybody. Becky tries to ask for money to feed the homeless, kind of do something. And then Becky actually fights heads with Adam and doesn't know that he's transgender. Sabotage is when Claire writes a nasty article about them and Claire's having some kind of secret. Drew feels left out and tries to impress his friends and all that, but Audra tells him that he needs to go back to school and all that. Scream is when Eli has to deal with the play's opening night, trying to fight off Dallas, the bakers who are trying to picket the play, and all that. Tristan wants someone to be his first kiss in the next 24 hours, and Becky can't accept the fact that Adam's transgender. I understand. Tristan can't be found on school opening night. Claire and Katie try to concoct a plan to get revenge on Asher. And then Becky feels guilty for her actions and repents. I think that's when Jenna gets to her. Anyway, building a mystery, the two-parter is when Becky falls for Adam and not sure how her parents will react. Well, I mean, her dad's a minister, so that's not good. Becky then decides to tell her parents regardless that Adam's transgender, but they're not too happy with it. So anyway, Bianca learns that, Bianca and Drew are now engaged. And of course, Bianca doesn't know how to tell Audra and all that. And Bianca and Drew want to have Audra accept the fact that they're getting married. Of course, Audra's not too happy, thinking that Drew's wasting his time. And a lot of us probably thought that he was wasting his time. I mean, I think he was just desperate to be with Bianca for some kind of protection. Anyway, doll parts is when Maya is not appreciated by her boyfriend or band. So she gets a pageant style makeover. She's in a beauty pageant. Unfortunately, Tori's not too happy with Maya taking attention from her. Marisol thinks Mo's hiding from something because she finds syringes in his bag, but Mo found out that he has diabetes. Adam tries out for the boys' volleyball team, but doesn't get much help. I Want It That Way is when Allie has troubles with her health and relationships. Tristan actually decides to go on a cleanse to lose weight. Because remember, Tristan, when he was introduced, was a chubby teenager. He's instead of the skinny guy you see him. But of course, he collapses from losing so much weight. Imogen's mother disapproves of Fiona, but Fiona bonds with her, and it works out. So anyway, yeah. But because Lyle Lando, the guy who played Tristan, was actually a skinny person, but wore a fat suit on the show. Tonight is when Whisper Hug Maya's band makes the final battle of the bands, and Adam catches the eye of some other of a lead singer named Missy. Maya actually wants Sig to get interested in Tori again, but Sig wants to be with Maya, even though Maya has feelings for Cam and all that. Claire hates being part of a double standard at home and all that. And she finally snaps at them. Then to end part one of, well, kind of part one of it, Degrassi Las Vegas. They go to Las Vegas, where all bets are off. Headley even appears in themselves. Of course, that's when Drew and Bianca decide to elope in Vegas because Drew kind of needs Bianca in his life and all that because he can't imagine his life without her. Katie gambles her future away, like her scholarship money away, and it could be costly. What other things happen in Vegas? I can't remember. But then, you know, it was December 2012, and then part two starts with Bittersweet Symphony, the 31st episode. Well, I say the 16th in a sense because there were the 16th two-parter is Bittersweet Symphony. You know the episode, I know the episode. So without trying to look too deep into it, Maya has problems because, she's in a love triangle with Cam and Sig. Sig wants Maya to himself and vows to destroy Cam and gets Cam so wound up he's suspended. Maya hates on Cam, but then she realizes she can't as Cam comes over to her house and tries to fix things with her. Spirit Week and all that. And Eli and Claire decide to have a picnic in the greenhouse. And then Eli finds something in the greenhouse that shocks him. Of course, Cam steals Maya's stuffed owl Hoot, wants to give it back, but Sig stops him and basically says, stay out of her life forever. Not knowing what Cam's pressures were like, Cam decides to take it personally and kill himself. Sorry for saying that, but that's the truth. So yeah, so he does it in the greenhouse. Eli is shocked and all that. All his bad feelings go to his head, and Eli is just shocked. Everyone is shocked. I mean, about Cam doing that. Now, of course, the question on everyone's lips is, what did Cam do? Did he hang himself? Did he do something with his skate and a certain body part? Or, as I put it, could he have been drinking garden chemicals and maybe under the influence of the chemicals, he decides to maim himself? That is possible. I've been saying that theory for years. Like, I've changed it to maybe under the influence of the chemicals. Maybe he didn't die by the chemicals, but he died under the influence of them. Because as someone who works at the garden center at Canadian Tire for the past 4 years in the summer, I should know about this stuff. Anyway, Eli tries to get rid of that image of Cam's dead body in ray of light and all that. Unfortunately, that doesn't work out so well. Jenna and Connor actually grow close and become one of the most underrated couples in Degrassi history. Anyway, yeah. So that's when Snake, I believe, talks to Eli and Bullfrog, Eli's dad, and talks to him about stuff. And Snake tells Eli that we're not so different because Snake saw someone's dead body, and that was Claude in Degrassi High and all that. So they share their experiences. Karma Police is when Drew finally moves back home, and Fiona now has to get a job because Drew's out of the loft and all that. But Fiona doesn't feel safe and all that. Dallas has a huge secret from Allie. Sig actually gets the cold shoulder because of the backlash from Cam's death and tries to get rid of his guilt about Cam. Like, Sig does tell Maya that he may have caused his death by telling him to get out of Maya's life. Maya laughs it off, and then everyone is upset with Maya for her lack of thinking after the whole Cam thing. She talks at the ceremony, and she says that he's guilty for killing himself. Like, why would he do that? I would have helped him. And she does have a point. And all that. Yeah. Anyway, zombie is when Maya posts a salacious video, and that was when her family finally snaps at her, and she snaps back saying, why not? Cam killed himself, broke up with me by killing himself. I never got to say goodbye. I would have helped him. I hate him. I hate him. Drew and Claire become senior class president for the next school year and actually have a thing with each other. They feel this way. And, this was huge and all that. So, yeah, Drew and Claire have a relationship. Connor tries to get Claire and Eli back together, but it doesn't work out. And the time of my life is when there's a prom things and all that. Fiona is gone, Jake is gone, Marisol is gone, and Owen's gone. So there you go. So that's the end of season 12 and all that. As I said, next week we will deal with seasons 13 and 14 because that ends the whole Degrassi thing. And why did my hair jump up like that? I guess when you're twisting your hair, you flipped it up. Ah, Cutter, you idiot. Anyway, I spent 35 minutes talking about those two seasons, and actually, it was shorter than I thought. Cool. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.